Part of the mission of Fellowship Baptist Church, of all of us, is to preach the gospel to every creature. Literally going beyond Columbus, Ohio, beyond Ohio to the uttermost parts of the earth. Our missionaries today are going to come up and speak in just a minute. They're missionaries to Portugal. This is Billy Marks and his wife Marianne. I answered the call from being part of a church staff. Knew that God was leading them to do this, and they're kind of like empty nesters now, and God putting them into a new chapter of their life. And we got to meet up through different means and connect with them. A little over a year ago, they became part of our church family through our missions program. And they were driving through town, and we wanted them to stop in and give us an update. So please make welcome Billy Marks as he comes to speak.
All right, well, good morning, and it's been a tremendous time with you all already, and if we haven't met you yet, we would love to. We'll be out at our table after the service, but as he mentioned, my name is Billy, and my wife is with me, Mary, and I'll introduce a little bit of who we are and what we're doing. This first picture would be our family, and God's given us 4 boys. And next to me there is our baby. He is 19, just graduated high school in May. His name is Andrew. And his mama has been praying that he'll go with us to Portugal. And that's not happening as of now. But enough churches are praying with her, so maybe God will move in hearts. Next to him is Daniel. He's 22. Shane is 20. And LaCory is our oldest. He is 25. And I'll testify just a little bit about our family and our story. 17 years ago, LaCory and Daniel were taken out of their home in Omaha, and with God's hand in their life, He put them in a tremendous foster home in our community, and immediately they started riding the bus to church, and they were faithful. They would come every Sunday morning, then they started finding their own rides on Sunday night and Wednesday night, and youth group at camp, and the whole deal. And so we fell in love with them with us. 5 years of that was great, and then the state started trying to find them an adoption home, a permanent home, which was good. It was good for them, but it probably meant them moving away from their friends, the community, and church. So we started praying. The state tried a couple homes that were just terrible fits for them. So we started praying, and one day, a little frustrated, I was talking to a group of people, and I said, these are too good of boys to be messing around with. I said, somebody in this church needs to step up and adopt those boys. Yeah, be careful when you say that someone needs to step up. And sure enough, God put that on our hearts. And, when you adopt teenage boys, a little bit changes around the house. Your food bill goes up a little. Your prayer life goes up a lot. But honestly, we did that to help them. But God has used them in our life more than we ever could have imagined. And we just celebrated 9 years of adopting them. And thank you. And but God's been so good. So that's us. That's our family. This next slide would be our youth group. For 23 years, I've been able to be the youth pastor in Plattsmouth, Nebraska. And I remember getting off the phone with our pastor when we were in the interviewing process. And I turned to my wife and I said, I think we're going to interview at a church in Nebraska. And she looked at me as serious as could be and said, where is Nebraska? Where is that at? And that's a mission field too. But for 23 years, we've been there. There's a picture of this, or a boy in this picture. A few months ago, he came up and showed me a picture of a Bible that I gave him when he was 3 days old. And so we've been able to just see young people come and grow up and serve the Lord. And God has been so good to us. For a very short bit, right before I was a youth pastor, I worked at a Coca-Cola plant, but I had to quit that because it was so depressing. Oh, you didn't see that. That didn't go over too well. I didn't do that in the first service. I thought y'all could handle it, but did I mention I was a youth pastor for way too long, apparently? But anyway, about 7 years ago, I went on a missions trip to Guatemala, and that's where God started working in our hearts that our next step would be missions. So then we started praying about where God would have us to serve, and we were thinking one way, and He would shut the door. And one day I heard about Portugal. Lots of things are happening in Portugal. A lot of people are migrating there right now. And so we started, the more we would look into it, the more God was opening doors. This would be where they are on the map. They're right next to Spain. This next picture would be their spiritual condition. We would never never consider them an unreached people group. Statistics would tell us that over 3 billion people in the world have never even heard the name Jesus. And they are not in that boat. They very well know who Jesus is. They are 86% Catholic, so they know who he is, but to know him as their Savior would be a totally different story. I love this verse here. 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, "In whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not." That's Portugal, 100%. They are good people. Their crime rate is less than 1%. So they're very good, they're very sweet, they're very kind. Unfortunately, they've been blinded by religion. There's a town there called Fatima, and the legend would be 100 and something years ago. Mary came down from heaven. She revealed herself to these 3 shepherd children. And through that, they've built shrines and cathedrals. And every year, hundreds of thousands of Portuguese will take a pilgrimage to Fatima. They walk. Wherever they live in the country, they'll walk there. Once they get there, they do all these rituals and different things. And they don't do that because they're bad. They do that because that's what they think they have to do. But I love how this verse goes on. It says, "Lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ, who is the image of God, should shine unto them." And that's all our goal is. Honestly, that's all a missionary is someone taking the light of the gospel to a blinded people, whether that's right here in Columbus, across the street, or whether it's across the ocean in Portugal. We want to do that 3 primary ways. First of all, just simply through evangelism and discipleship. We want to just start telling people about Jesus and then help them to grow in that relationship with him. Secondly, we want to plant churches. So we're going to plant our first one in Lisbon. Lisbon is the capital of Portugal. It's the largest city. There's 3.5 million people that live there. And then thirdly, through working with the nationals. And we want to help them to reach people, help them to disciple, and help them to plant churches of their own. And so with being a youth pastor for so long, obviously, we have a heart for the youth, and when we went over there 3 years ago this week, we went on a survey trip, and God really helped us see some visions and different things, but we met a Portuguese pastor. His name was Daniel, and he really showed us an opportunity to help Portuguese churches develop youth programs, to work and train volunteers, to help them do things like vacation Bible school and camps and different things like that. And so we're excited as we get there, and we're working, planning churches. We're also helping Portuguese churches with their youth groups. And this last picture would be David. And this picture, if you look closely, you can see lots and lots of big smiles. They outgrew their storefront property, and they bought an old warehouse and converted that to their church. And so this is their very first service in their brand new auditorium. He's the fellow in the middle with the blue shirt. And so we're excited as we get to Portugal, as we learn the language, as we learn the culture. We'll learn church work through this precious church here. So we're excited. We are at a great point in our ministry. November 13th. You could pray for that date. We already bought our one-way tickets, and so we'll be going there to Portugal and setting up camp there. And we just got back last week from the Portuguese embassy. We were able to turn in all of our paperwork for our residency visa. And so you could pray that they approve that in a expedient manner, and that we get all that back. And we're excited as we go November 13th. And thank you again for your partnership with us. At this time, we will have a video.
My name is David Booth, and I've had the privilege of serving the Lord here in Portugal as a church planting missionary for the past 11 years. Portugal is a beautiful country, a country with a rich history, a country with a wonderful, friendly people. And yet it's also a very empty and a very needy country. Portugal, the vast majority of people are nominally Catholic, and so Portugal has a Catholic heritage. But I would say the vast majority of people that we encounter that live in our town, that we interact with, are really Catholic in name only and really give very little thought to God, to the Bible, to their spiritual condition.
Hello, my name is Philippe. When I was in high school, I met Pastor David. He was teaching religion class. I didn't go to class that often, but ending up finding the church that he's a pastor, he's leading, and I've been a member since for like 5 years. I've been growing up in faith and in the gospel. And this church has helped me a lot in growing up as a Christian. I love Portugal, I love my country, but I also have a deep burden for it because there's a great need for the gospel in this country. A lot of people don't know at all what the gospel is. It's a religious country, but that's all it is.
You know, Billy and Marianne have been serving at a church for 20 years, and that speaks a lot to their continuity and their perseverance and just their spirit to serve the Lord. And I see that what they have been doing over the past 20 years, serving in their church, so much of what they've been doing fits right here with what they could be doing here in Portugal. So I ask that you would consider supporting, encouraging, praying for Billy and Marianne. Portugal needs good missionaries, and I believe that there'll be great missionaries here in Portugal, that God will use their lives in a mighty way here. So thank you so much.
Although we are a really small country compared to Spain, there are millions of people that don't know anything about the gospel. And we need missionaries like Billy and Marianne to come and help us to spread and share the gospel.